legit, like my entire childhood was encapsulated in this sort of entrepreneurial experience. Like, and it was kind of fascinating. You talked about that. I'm like, I feel like for me, it's always been this like deep knowing, like that part of me was just always there. Hey, Jillian, welcome to the podcast. I am so honored to have you here.
Thanks so much, Renae. I'm excited to be here and chat with you today.
I know. I always love meeting new people and getting these conversations and be able to dive deep and go really deep in conversations with people that I've never met really before. Like we've never met an actual person, but it's so fun to kind of hear all of people's different perspectives and journeys and stories and how they really got here. I love, one of my favorite things I think recently has been hearing people's entrepreneur journey. Like, where did that call kind of come from? What created you to be here? Entrepreneurship is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. And so what has been that thing that's kept you going? What is that thing that's really aching for you? And tell us a little bit about that story for us.
Yeah. Thanks for asking. I love talking about, I'm with you. I love hearing other people's stories, other people's experiences, even if it's different and in contrast to my own. I just feel like it creates perspective and depth of what the industry actually looks like and what everyone's path is so different. And so I love sharing about how I got started because it really just came from this innate, I couldn't not do it. And it's really hard to articulate one moment, one thing that was just this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. And really what I have learned in reading all the entrepreneur books, about how people get started or what their personality is like or how they do things is that when you have the bug, you have the bug. And it really doesn't matter what business you start or what you grow. You just have something inside of you that wants to sees a problem, wants to create a solution, and then goes after that. And so that's really where it comes from for me. I grew up with a dad who had his own business, local business, remodeling for over 25 years. And from my perspective was extremely successful. I'm sure that he would have all the things to say from his experience. But I talk about him a lot because I watched him do that. And I also watched him have to make really hard decisions about where he spent his time. And I'm sure he would also tell you that he didn't always make those decisions perfectly.
Yeah.
But what I see on this side of things, being, in my mid-30s and having seen him grow this business, retire from it, and being where I'm at now, I see that everything he's told me about business comes from his own experiences. And where I think that a lot of us hear how other people grow businesses in their experience and we adopt it as oh, well, that's how we need to do it. That's what's going to happen for us. And it's just not true. I think that that's a false sense of security that someone else has done it, so I can do it too. When in reality, his experiences in business, I had to sever myself from them. I had to not listen to them. I had to unlearn them, if you will.
Yeah.
Because they were at a different point in time. They were a completely different industry. And well, he's a man and I'm a woman. So there's those differences as well. And, I'm coming from the position of being a mother. He came from the position of being a father. And those are different dynamics as well. So I think for me, it's this whole season of business has been becoming aware of the stories that I've been told about business, whether it be from personal connections like my dad or from people that I don't really know, I've listened to on a podcast or read a book or whatever, and really taking their experiences with a grain of salt and almost unlearning certain things that either I've been taught by example, taught through books, taught through coaches. And so that's kind of where I think I'm sitting in business right now. I know it's time to untangle the necklaces of those truths.
That is so good. I don't know. I mean, we probably didn't talk about this either, but my dad is an entrepreneur as well. And I was actually talking to somebody recently and I was talking about just that, growing up in that space. My dad, and I come from multi-generation. So my grandpa started a grocery store. And then that grocery store kind of evolved and grew. And then my dad and his brothers took over. And then it grew into gas stations and multiple grocery stores and all these things. And we were talking about something so silly the other night about like movies. And it made this like flashback for me of, I remember the gas stations back in the day when we had just VHS. They used to have like a video rental in the gas station. And so the conversation came up because I was like, I remember watching like the most random out of the like weird movies, but it was because I had access to kind of this like video rental store all the time. And it just got me like sparked and thinking of like all of those, super micro things. Like I lived above the gas station. We had an apartment above the gas station. So I like lived at the gas station. I helped, sell or rent the VHSs. I sold crabs on the back patio. Like legit, like my entire childhood was encapsulated in this sort of entrepreneurial experience. Like, and I was kind of fascinating. You talked about that. I'm like, I feel like for me, it's always been this like deep knowing, like that part of me was just always there. I don't think even to this day, I'm like, I don't think I would ever be happy just working a 9 to 5 job. Like there's something in me that just could not do that. Even, like I work per diem still at the hospital, like that's okay. But like, there's this element of like, I have to be pursuing something of my own. Like I have to be creating, I have to do these things. And so it's really fascinating to hear you talk about that too. But it is a very different business. It's a very different model. There's like very different, lessons. And like, I remember one point my dad talking about this, like, when I was a kid, I sold rocks in the store. So I went out in the back and I like got all these rocks and I cleaned them and I set them up at the on the front. And he's like, if you want to sell them really fast and really quick, you've got to put like $8 and then slash it and then, make it look like it's on sale and like that whole sales psychology sort of element. And like in recent years, I've been working with my coach and he had said, he doesn't recommend putting things on sale because it changes the mentality of like the value of what you're getting and like all these things. So it's like, it's been fascinating to really untangle how selling and marketing was in the 80s and 90s and how things have evolved and how humans like have evolved. Like our world, we're just so much more aware of like that marketing strategy and things that are there and all of those types of things. And yet at the same time, there's these like underlying principles and truths that are there. So I think that's one whole conversation. But the other thing you talked about, and I really want to highlight too, is like the same as my dad. Like I've watched my dad achieve phenomenal success in life. And I've also seen him have the biggest failures that other people wouldn't even dare touch, like multi-million dollar failures, right? And I think that that's a really important conversation for people to have because I think if you look at my dad, like anybody else in the community, everybody else around would just see the highlights. They see the amazing things that went. They don't see, like you said, this time sacrifices or the choices that they had to make or the failures that they made or anything. Like we only ever see the highlights. And I think that that's something really important to highlight, even just an entrepreneurial journey as well, in like overarching is that even all of like the online marketers today and like what we see, we really only ever see the highlights. We don't see the numbers of failures. And so if we're in that backspace of like, we're doing the work and we're making the failures, it's really easy, I think, to think that we're doing something wrong or we're not doing it right. And it's kind of like unlearning that there too.
Yeah, I have to say too, I don't know if you've experienced this, but as I am kind of unlearning in my business, I feel like I'm also unlearning in my personal life. I feel like therapy and business experiences are like hand in hand in this season. And it's just really transformational when those two align. And I do need to say like that it is one of the hardest seasons for me because I've opened up so much that I'm like exploring and relearning and understanding in new ways. And part of that is, like maturity and experience, but also just the bravery of saying, I'm actually going to challenge that thought. I'm going to challenge that way of doing things because it doesn't feel in complete alignment with my integrity. And I think part of that is, being so connected to your values. And your values come from your experiences. They don't just come from things that sound good or look good on paper or I feel like a lot of coaches, and not all coaches, but I've been through some coaching experiences where they have given you a list of values to like check a box. Which values, name your values for your business. and you'll like look at all of them and you're like, ooh, that sounds good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I like that one. Okay. Oh yeah, that's totally me. And we end up with like 7 to 10 to 15 values because we're like, yes, 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 I want all those things. And ultimately though, that's not deeply connected to who we are as people. But if we look back at our experiences, if we look back at the conversations we've had, the hard conversations, the joyous conversations, the moments that stick out to us in our journey of existence, that's where our values really come from. And to be able to make decisions and use that as a filter of like, okay, I'm going to challenge this one thing because it doesn't line up with like what I know to be true about myself and what I need to do and the conviction I feel inside of me. So yeah, it's a very complicated, messy journey.
Yeah.
I wish that it wasn't. I want it to be neat and tidy.
Yeah.
But it's just not. And I have learned to find like a lot of joy in that mess. And, you know, when we talk about untangling things, I think that on the other side of that, you know, I look at my dad's journey and I look at him now, him and his wife, my stepmom, travel the world for several months out of the year. And he's retired. She's retired. They're living a great life. And I see that and I'm like, that's impressive to me. That he grew this business. He had such hard times. He, you know, had to make hard decisions, had failures, but look at where he is now. And that to me is like, it doesn't negate the bad moments. It doesn't, you know, only highlight the good things either. I feel like it's just such a reverence for the entire journey, good or bad.
Yeah. Do you feel like how long have you been in business?
Oh, for this business, I have been in this business for about 6 years.
Okay. So that's like, I was just kind of thinking about it too, of like, I wonder if there's a part of like it takes the time, or is there a way for people to fast forward through some of this learning? Cause I feel like for me, I mean, I started my business in network marketing back in probably nine-ish years ago. And so 9 years of doing a business and like what I'm doing now is, you know, it's morphed and changed. But I feel like I like parts of me are like, I wish I could have gone on the journey faster. And even yesterday, a good friend of mine posted a reel or carousel thing on Instagram. And she was like, year one, this is what my business looked like. Year two, this is what my business looked like. It wasn't till like year 9 that she was hitting those goals that most people are like touting and making all big and grandiose and things like that. And I think that one, there's an inflated sort of sense like people feel or see in the market and in the industry. But I think like there is this evolution of who we are that I wonder, like you said, like I wish I could have done it faster. I wish it could have been neater. Wish I could have like figured out what these things were. It all came at the time that it needed to, and it was all a part of the journey. But for like other people that are maybe in it or earlier in the journey, like, do you feel like there's a way that we get into that place faster? Like I had a mentor like recently, and she was like, you know, I think this is going to click really quickly and all this stuff is going to match really quickly because you're so self-aware. But that self-awareness took a lot of like, it took a lot of learning, and it took a lot of lessons, and it took a lot of failure, and it took a lot of making mistakes, and it took a lot of like, quote unquote, not what people would want. And I'm like, is there a way we can get to that goal and get to that destination without having to go to that space?
That is such a good question. And I'm going to warn you, I don't have a polished answer for this.
That's
but
okay.
I'm going to start spitting things out because I feel so passionate about this. It took one person to believe in me, to say, who was not my family, by the way.
Yeah.
And not that my family doesn't believe in me. They absolutely do. But
it's just different.
It's different. And it took one person to say, you can do this, for me to be like, heck yeah, I can do this. And I, to this day, I feel such loyalty and, like honor and gratitude for that person because she was younger than me. And I looked at her and I was like, you're doing amazing. And she still struggles with normal everyday things like we all do. But again, it just took one person to say, you can do this. And for us to borrow that and say, you know what, I definitely can.
Yeah.
Backing up to your question a little bit about, can we almost expedite the journey to some extent? And I don't think that there's a yes or no answer to that. I almost feel like what I have learned is that the most self-aware version of me that I am today versus where I was 2, 3, 5, 6 years ago, I feel like I got there the more connected I became with myself, not other people and what they were doing. And when you start a business, when you're in the first couple of years, you're like, okay, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. I need to learn from somebody. I need a coach. I need this. I need that. And my own personal experience was that I got to a point where I was like, I need a coach. I'm in my head too much. I need someone to come alongside me, share their expertise. They've been in the online business industry. Like I need someone to guide me. And I was looking for the wrong things in the wrong places. And that's a mistake I've made all of my life in all different kinds of ways. But it was because I felt like I was scrambling. I felt like I wasn't enough. I felt like even though like I kind of lost sight of the belief that I could do it. And really the mental side of that is so much stronger than the actual like potential results. If you believe that you can do it, you're still going to get so much farther than if you check every box and follow every instruction, because there is something that happens in your physical body when you can actually like believe in yourself and know that you can do this, that keeps you going when things don't add up. And things aren't going to add up. That is like things are going to happen where you're like, well, that was a curveball, or I didn't see that coming, or that launch failed, or this didn't land with the people that I want to serve. And there's going to be so many situations like that. But what's going to make you get back up is the belief that it's not over and that you still have something to give. You have enough. All you can do is all you can do, and all you can do is enough. And just like keeping that as a constant string of belief in yourself makes the biggest impact from my perspective.
So something I've been really like, one, my business is built all around like the body and the menstrual cycle, but I've been digging deeper and going deeper into that, into like how the body actually changes and how like the thoughts and the things that we're saying to ourselves in our how they're actually like manifesting in our bodies. And I've read a couple of books recently that have like scientific studies around the molecular cellular makeup of our bodies based around the thoughts that we have and that energetic frequency. And even today I was listening to an audiobook from Dr. Joe Dispenza, and just like listening to it of how much it's not just our thoughts, but it's the actual embedding of those thoughts like into our body, and then the vibrational frequency match of that in our external world. And how we can be saying, I can do this, this is great, this is great, this is great, but our body is like, I'm like muscling my way through this, like I don't know if this is gonna work. Like our body is so tense and tight in the actions, right? Whether it's like getting up early and muscling our way through, like working 12-hour days, like I've got to hustle my way through. Like our body in that state is still operating in that belief of like, we've got to fight for this, like scarcity, like I've got to go, I've got to work hard and like muscle, versus even if we're doing all this mindset work of this is easy, this is like flow, this is like that I can do this, I'm worthy of this, like all these things. Like if our head and our bodies are not in coherence with each other, it seems like it doesn't matter. Like you said, if you're showing up and you're doing all the check boxes, like that's my story. Like I have check boxed every checkbox there is to check, right? Like, and I remember talking to coaches and being like, no, legit, like I've checkboxed this, like I've done this, like I've worked this, I've done this, like over and over and over again, and still sat there and said, like, why is it not working? Why is it not working? And even just recently, I invested in a 1-day coaching experience, and I left, and like everybody, my husband, everybody's like, how was it? How was it? And I was like, I don't really feel like there was any massive like aha or breakthrough, like information, but it was the energetic alignment that I needed. And I think that we underestimate that. Like, I think we underestimate that how much our body plays into what we're doing. Like I think just culturally, like even on that VIP day or that coaching day, I was like on my way there and I had slept in, like I hit snooze. I had told myself, I'm like, I'm going to work out before I go because I want to be all like ready and amped and like energetic. And that morning I woke up and I was so tired that I hit the snooze button instead of getting up to go. And on my way there, I was thinking, wow, how much of our society would say that I did the inconsistent thing or that I didn't do the right thing because I chose sleep and rest over the consistent workout. And so she and I had this conversation around this, like our society is just so like focused on the doing and the going and the hustling instead of the state of who we really are and the beingness and like ensuring that our body and our frequency and like everything is in alignment with where we're going and what we want to create. And sometimes I think so much of the coaching industry is so much just in the head.
Mm-hmm. I believe in that too. Yeah, there's something to be said, and you know, I'm on this dual journey of personal untangling of things and business professional untangling.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, it's almost like the things I'm learning on the personal side very much apply to the business side. And you know, we talk a lot about how your body just holds
Totally.
everything.
Yes.
Body, everything that you've been through in your entire life counts. And it's counting somewhere in your body in some way. And even if it feels small, it still counts. Giving ourselves permission to recognize that and say, yeah, that experience, because we don't want to acknowledge our failures. We don't want to acknowledge when we've made bad decisions or when we would like to have done things differently or the fact that we've ignored something like burnout, for example. I feel like there is so much silent burnout out there that it's like if it's not screaming in our face, we are pushing it under the desk. We're like, no, not now. I am getting stuff done. And there's so much toxicity with that we're not acknowledging what our bodies are trying to tell us and what we actually need to be able to be sustainable. I feel like I see it the most in people in like the first couple of years of business because we're told, okay, to have a successful business, you have to work your butt off. And that is absolutely true. That is not a lie. But the way that you do that honors who you are as a person, honors your value system, honors your experiences, honors your trauma, honors your body. Like that looks differently than what someone else has done, that someone else who is telling you, you've got to work super hard. And it's almost like we are measuring ourselves up against something that's unrealistic.
Totally.
To validate that we're working hard enough. And this is something I'm living through in this moment too. So I'm not preaching it. I am sharing experience.
No, totally. I think I think we all are in that journey to some level or extent of like leaning into that, right? Of leaning into where did the beliefs, I think for me too, I don't know if it's like an age or if it's like a stage in business, but I have had this like really like questioning, like, why do I believe that? Like, why do I act like that? Like, where did that belief come from? Like, who is that attached to? And I think like going back to the conversation of unlearning, I definitely am in that same season of like, how do I unlearn or not even necessarily always unlearning, but it's like become conscious of the programming that's already happening. And I think that is the biggest like thing that's shifted everything is looking at like, how is this unconscious thought process? Like, where did it come from? How is it operating? How does it make me feel in my body? What's coming up for me? And I like told my clients yesterday, I was like voice messaging them and I said, I always like, why? Like, why is the number one question that this age of my life, I'm like asking myself, like, why am I feeling this way? Like when I got super frustrated with my daughter when we were on vacation, my first instinct was like, why am I feeling so triggered like this? Like, why am I like, what is it in me that's causing this type of reaction? And why do I believe whatever. Like it's always that question of just being really curious, not why from like a, like, who are you? But like this why, really getting really, really, really curious of, okay, I got really triggered with that, or I was way attached to that. I got really upset about that. I got really angry with that. I remember having like recently had somebody say something to me on my Instagram, and I like, one, I had a drink or something like that. So I wasn't like in my sound mind, and I shouldn't have been on my DMs, but I was, and I responded really quickly, and it didn't go very well. It was like a very poor conversation. But in hindsight, it was like, why did I feel so triggered by that comment that she made to me? And like, then one, I should have done that work before I responded. But it's just that awareness of like, why are we feeling these ways? Like when somebody says something to us on social media, or when the launch doesn't go the way it does, or when your husband doesn't take out the trash, or like whatever it might be. I feel like the growth and this evolution that I've been on has been, it's less about anybody else and it's more about me. Like, cause the same situation could happen to somebody else and they have no reaction to it, or they could be really excited about it, or it could be something different. So like the reaction that's coming up is because it's within me. And how do I not filter that, but like become really aware of that, so that then I'm making educated moves or decisions or choices instead of just reacting.
Yeah. When you were saying that, like jotted down a note, curiosity makes us go backwards. Like it makes us go back to something that has happened to us, something like why. We ask ourselves, why is this happening? And that makes us go backward, right? And content, what we hear, what we know about business is like forward. And so it feels a little counterintuitive. It feels a little bit like, I don't have time. I don't have time to go backwards. Who wants to go backwards?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
So like it, and also I know for myself, at least, when I go to therapy, when I have to like sit down and journal about something, it takes an emotional toll on me. Like it costs me something in my energy that I know I'm not going to get back that day. Right.
Yeah.
And, but there's like we think that if we're going backwards and we're subtracting from our energy and going and taking our mind back to those places, we think that it's just generally a cost. We don't think about the opportunity that comes with that cost. And I really feel like while everyone is telling us to go forward fast, if we get more connected with ourselves and why we are the way that we are. And that goes in multiple ways. Our responses to everything are a reflection of us. Just like, somebody who would slide into your DMs and say something, whatever to you, their response to you is going to reflect them and where they're at. Yeah. And that is both positive and negative, right? Because if we are in a really healthy, whole place, then our response is going to it's going to come off as being healthy and whole. It has nothing to do with another person. They could be cursing you out. It doesn't matter. But you can respond in a way that is healthy and whole. Whereas the opposite is also true. And I love how you're calling that out for yourself and saying, I could have done better there. And we still have moments like that. Like I think, and I hold on to things too long. That's something I'm working on, is like holding on to experiences too long and like reliving them.
Yep.
But also there is value in, like you said, being aware of why. Taking that awareness, that truth, and saying, this is how I'm going to move forward with it. You don't have to like hold on to it and unearth the embarrassing conversation, the hard conversation, whatever happened that made you feel uncomfortable in your own body. You just have to take what is needed from that moment and keep moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think there's so much in that, like you said, one of the mantras that I've been saying to myself over and over and over again in probably the last 6 months is, the slower I am, the faster my business grows. Because of that idea, like you said, like we sometimes have this feeling of like, we have to go faster. We have to create more. We have to do more. But what I'm finding is that it is more in that, like, the more that I can be slow and still and listen to what's coming up for me, I create the content from that whole place. I create the email from that place, I feel like the most connected in that place. Like one of the ways that I've noticed it the most, and it was funny, like right before we hopped on here, I was like trying to record a video and I was like trying to squeeze it into like such a short amount of time. And I was like, I feel so stagnant. Like I feel like I can't get the energy right. And I had worked with a video like voice coach a few years ago and recognized and realized like how much energy comes across in our videos. And when we're out of alignment, when we're out of that wholeness, like people feel it. They feel our emotions in our voice, even though one, they may not cognitively be able to tell you that, but or two, they may not be aware of it. Like they feel it and they determine whether or not they trust you or not, or they want to work with you or not in those few little things. And so me being aware of that, like, I don't want to force it. I don't want to push it. I don't want to like any of these things like has caused me to go really in. And it was funny before I was like trying to get the video done, I could feel like this pressure of I only have so much time to get it done. And I kept like trying to record it and like get it going and like, retaking and whatever. And then my phone died and I was like, okay, this is not happening right now. Like, I'm not doing this. But even then, it's like I was operating in that like forced, got to take this action, got to get it done, got to move it, and how that like we feel so much. I think like I like tangented here, but it's like I know that taking a break, walking away from it, doing something else for a little bit, I'll be able to come back to it and probably be in that whole place, like be in that the energy that needs to come forth versus I think so much of what we're doing is like forcing the content, forcing the email, forcing the video, and then wondering why it falls flat and why it doesn't go, why people aren't calling in, why we're not getting that magnetism. It's because the energy isn't there. Like we have it slowed down enough to actually sit with like, what am I actually feeling when I write this email? Am I feeling super scarce? Am I feeling super overwhelmed? Am I feeling this pressure? Am I feeling whatever? And, that pressure pleasure conversation has been a big conversation inside the Flow Collective, like one of my programs right now, of when we are operating from that place of pleasure and joy and contentment and happiness, like people feel it. It feels so much different than when we're operating from this place of pressure. And I think I've had so many coaches tell me that pressure is a good thing in business. And that when we have like pressure to meet a deadline or pressure to get something done, or we like, we're in a challenge and we have this like pressure to complete something or check something or whatever, that's a good thing. And I think there is some element of that. But I think for me, what I've realized as a woman and being more in that feminine role, it's way more the pleasure. Like way more when I'm feeling so juicy and so lit up and so pleasured and so resourced and so full. That's when things hit better than when I put myself on the line of like, I've got to put the pressure on the line.
Peace is often the missing piece.
Yes. Yes.
And we don't look at that as a business tool. We don't look at that as the thing that we need to achieve. We look at profits. We look at adding people to our team. We look at higher numbers, higher revenue, higher people through our funnel, like whatever it is. It's always more and more and more instead of like looking inward and like reconnecting and aligning with that inner peace. Yeah. And, when you were talking about what the pressure looks like and like trying to record the video before this, when I am like the most aligned and the most at peace in my business, this is what it looks like tangibly for me. I move things in my calendar. Because if my energy drops for some reason, or like, in terms of your cycle specifically. Yeah. I would love to say that I track everything to a T, but I don't because I get busy and then I get like, I don't even know what's happening half the time. And, and then I'm like, I need to check my app. Like what is happening? And that helps inform me. But before I usually feel it before I look for information on it. And when I feel it, I'm like, okay, well, that means that I'm not going to record this video today, or I'm not going to do this today because I just can't do it. And that has been the thing that has given me the most peace, but also the most energy on the other side of it. Yeah. Like actually, I feel like when I'm allowed to tell my calendar no, and then like click it and move it to another day or move it to the next week, there is a sense of satisfaction in that, of saying, I get that I'm not going to check that box today, or even this week, but I know that this is what I need. And even though I am still hard on myself in that moment, because like we're trying to untangle the necklaces, okay? We're still doing it. But even though I still feel that sense of like pressure to get things done and to do things, peace overrides pressure.
Yeah.
And so when you let the peace in, it will calm the pressure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I'm like, we're using all these P words, but you said like, it's like you give yourself permission, right? So it's like permission to experience the pleasure and the peace and let go of the pressure. I'm like, ooh, I'm going to have like a thing here with all these P words here. But it makes such a huge difference. Like when we let go of that, or even just like going back to that awareness idea of like, the more aware that we are, like, oh, I'm at this phase of my cycle. Okay, I'm going to give myself permission to move this. That's why it's not landing. And I'm not going to pressure myself to get it done. That's when we create that fluidity and that flow. And it makes such a huge difference. I mean, I'm not in that phase when I'm like, I should be like ramped. So my kids are off to camp. Like that's like my kids are gone. I'm like, I've got so much work to do. I should be ovulating this week. Like I'm like, let's go. Let's get it done. But I think part of it was just like coming home, like coming home from dropping them off and then like that transit, like it takes sometimes. Like I know, honestly, like I'm a generator in human design. And so this reciprocation here will probably be the thing that'll shift that energy for me. Right. Or I've got a couple more podcasts today. I know that having these types of conversations is what fuels me and is going to help me get into that state of being able to record that video, probably like in no time at all. And that's one of the things I've really learned. Same thing with like recording social media content. I record the best social media content after I've had a call with one of my clients. Like the best content is because I'm like in it with them in this energy of this reciprocal exchange of helping them and supporting them and like feeling their energy and my energy. And it's all going. That right after that is the best time for me to record content versus like this morning. I'm like, just fresh after dropping off my kids going off to camp and like come home and it's like, let's get work done. Like that is not the best place to go. Right. So it's like, really, I think just to kind of harp on like your conversation of like permission to move things in the calendar is like getting really aware of like where those things are and like why your energy shifts and changes. Like we are very energetic beings and it makes a huge difference. And when we just become aware of like how our body does that, how our calendar, like the structure of like what we're doing, that human design piece of like me, I know like I thrive in conversation. That's my best place versus actually I'm going to like give myself a little way here. I was like, at first was like, I cannot do this. Like I'm staring across the freaking room at a camera, like by myself. This feels so weird. I actually printed a picture of my clients and put it underneath my camera because I'm like, I need to feel like I'm talking to somebody. Like that makes such a huge difference. So yeah, anyway.
I love that.
I feel like just, yeah.
I love it. So you were talking about pressure. I feel like the thing that I wrote down was internal and external pressure and the differences between them. And, and we hear this a lot, like pressure makes diamonds. And so that's like, okay, pressure is good. I can live through the pressure because it's going to make diamonds. And I get that. But pressure from an internal standpoint is typically never helpful. And because it's us putting unrealistic expectations on ourselves, and how that manifests is that internal pressure. So, being able to say, yeah, pressure is sometimes a good thing, but connecting with yourself, identifying where it's coming from. Is it internal or external? Because that affects how we treat it and how we react in it.
Totally. Totally. Oh, this has been so good. I've enjoyed this. Like, and honestly, I'm like, I feel all ready to go now. Like, just
you're ready to record that video.
I'm ready to go. I mean, I won't be able to do it for a few more hours, but that I think is just like when you figure out your thing and you figure out, I was telling somebody recently, I'm like recording content in my car. It's like, I have a hard time recording content in my house because I've conditioned myself so much to record it when I'm like picking the kids up from school. I'll be sitting in the drive-through line. And so now if I want to record content, I almost always have to go sit in my car. because my brain has just like associated that. And I think it's just really valuable when we start to look at that. Like, where do you thrive? Like, where do you feel, how's the best way to structure your calendar? How's the best way to structure your day? What lights you up? Like, what makes you excited? What makes you, and like unlearning, kind of like going back to that same topic of like unlearning what people tell you should be doing, or how it should be, or what it looks like it needs to be, or what everybody else does, or how everybody else does it, and like really finding that secret sauce, like that thing for you that makes you unique and makes you different and allows you to like step into that magnetism, I think makes a huge difference.
Yeah, I totally agree. And going back to one of the questions you asked me, is there a way to expedite it? That's
Yeah.
the way to expedite it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because if we're able to be that connected with ourselves and understand what's going to make our energy flow in the right way at the right time, so we're going to be so much more productive in those moments rather than pulling teeth to get things done for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it feels so much more draining when we try to force something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I totally agree. I love that thought.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, I'm gonna like rapid fire. Is there anything else that you feel like we left out that you want to leave people with? And then tell us a little bit about what it is you actually do and how you support women and or people, and then where people can find you.
Well, I do actually just support women.
Okay. I
I
was
love
like, wait a
working with
second.
women. There's just a special
Yeah.
connection that women understand about each other and mothers, and we're all kind of in this together. And so, yeah, I love working with women. Um, there's nothing really that I think that we missed. I think that this is
Good.
such a good conversation. I want us to continue the conversation in all the circles that we're in, even if you are listening to this and you're like, wow, I never thought of it that way. Or there's
Mm-hmm.
something that either of us said that just like struck with someone else. Keep asking the questions, keep
Yeah.
challenging it. Because if there's something that really makes your heart flutter a little bit, you're like, ooh, I think I need to dig into that more. Keep pressing into it because there is something to be discovered there.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I feel like I've worked in all the things, all the industries, all the people, and have a lot of experience. You asked me how long I've been in business. For this business, 6 years. But before that, I was writing Bible studies and doing like Christian gifts. And before that, I was doing graphic design, which is what my degree is in. And so there's in all of those areas, what I have really felt the most aligned with is helping women believe in themselves that they can do it and feel empowered in it. And then also simplifying what that format looks like that is
Mm-hmm.
adaptable for them. So typically I see women struggle the most with handing things off to other people. We think that it's all ours to take on. The world is ours
Yeah.
to take on. And in some ways, absolutely. Like if you want to build an incredible business or start a foundation or whatever it is for you, if that dream is on your heart, absolutely you can do it. Let's talk about it. But you can't do it all. And
Yeah.
what I help people look at is if in the first 5 years, let's say we are doing everything in our business, maybe we have an assistant, maybe we're handing things off, but essentially we're shouldering all of the burdens. And what I help women walk through is learning how to hand things off in a way that feels authentic to them, that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
feel like they are burdening someone else, or coming up with a system basically that is foolproof and doesn't just hand things off, but creates a new mindset for them of,
Yeah.
yeah, I know I have to hand this off to grow a little bit.
Yeah.
And I do that through my course called Overwhelmed to Owning It. And it's really just scratching the surface. I really hope to work with people one on one, navigating that whole thing. And I do have a 90-day program where I do that more intensely in people's businesses as well. But I also have a podcast, the Grace-Filled CEO podcast, and I love it so much. Just released a summer series and it's been great. So I'm excited to share that with everybody as well.
So good.
Yeah.
Jillian, thank you so much for coming on. We will make sure to have all of your links in the show notes for people to go grab them and follow you and hang out and send you a DM. Let you know they heard you here. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Renae.
Yeah.